The market gods have spoken and they said, well, I think we're going to find out the truth once we talk to Greg Guenthner. The market gods have spoken and they said, let there be a little bull market. The bear market, forget about it. Don't get scared. Anyway, we got a bunch to cover on top trades today. Gunnar invited me back. My name is Matt Insley. If you haven't seen me in a while, I'm the publisher at Paradigm Press. Glad to be here. I used to be on the call all the time, but then apparently we got a bunch of people that are super smart and Enrique and Gunnar, and they've got all sorts of things going on. So every now and then you have to endure Matt Insley coming back in action, talking stocks up or down. Last time I think I was on was like scary time. Everyone was worried. Now it's feeling a little bit better. So we're going to get it going. We got the chat open. So go ahead, add in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it for Gunnar. And Gunnar's got a lot to cover today because he was the one that whispered in the green room. It's sort of like, hey, we might be seeing a little bit, is this a full bull market? Is it a bear market rally? Who knows? But there's money to be made. And Gunnar, you guys are doing a good job keeping track of some trades we were talking about. Precious metals. You had the GDX trade. You have SILJ going on. You've got some action happening in the market. So we want to cover some of those stocks. We want to cover your chart sort of watch list. If anyone hasn't heard me give the spiel, I love Gunnar because he just gets up every morning, looks at a ton of charts, and doesn't matter what the tickers are, the sectors or whatever, and he'll find things that are moving, up or down in any sort of market. So we want to get a look at that and the charts that he's excited about. So Gunnar, what am I missing, man? What else are we covering on the call today?
Well, first of all, I think the main thing you're missing is you're underselling yourself, because when I told everyone that you would probably be joining us this week on last week's call, everybody on chat got very excited because they wanted to hear from Fundamental Matt. So everybody wants portfolio updates from you. They want to know what you're still holding and what you might have sold and whether or not you're still feeling bearish. So we'll get to all that, I think. But more importantly, it does look like this this pullback, this very fast pullback that we've endured since the market printed all-time highs back in middle of February, it feels like that's abating, and we are getting some rips higher. You saw what happened last week. Step one, as I told people, the market stopped going down. That's always important. We stopped going straight down. We were going straight down almost every day, and it stopped doing that. And we started to rally on some bad news. The bad news didn't seem to rattle the market. The market didn't seem to care that Powell said that they were in no rush to lower rates, and they didn't seem to care that the Fed lowered the growth forecasts and all that stuff. And the market started rallying, and then continued that rally into Friday. And you might recall that Fridays have been kind of bad lately. During this last drawdown, it seemed like every Friday the market was just falling off a cliff because nobody wanted to hold stocks over the weekend. Everybody was scared, and they were dumping their holdings. Not last week. Friday rallied, and then we had the market continue to rally yesterday. And what were the big movers yesterday? Well, the biggest mover on the NASDAQ 100 and the biggest mover in the S&P 500 was Tesla. I don't know if you've heard of this company. I hear they make electric cars and they do some other stuff.
Yeah.
But Tesla posted a gain of what, almost 12%? And I don't know if you know about this either, but the CEO has been in the news lately. This guy, Elon Musk, has been in the news, and he's been having tomatoes hurled at him by about half the population. People have been protesting his dealerships, burning some of them, setting Teslas on fire, vandalizing Cybertrucks, all that stuff. So there was the chance of a spite trade developing in this stock, and I've talked a lot about this. Enrique and I talked about this last week, and the way Enrique put it was there's been kind of this spite trade across the entire market where any bad news, any tariff-related news was getting sold, and people were selling the market based on spite against maybe the current administration. That appears to be ebbing too, and we're starting to see some pretty strong snapbacks. And these snapbacks are occurring in the stocks that were hit hardest. They were the outperformers up until we hit those new highs in February. The stocks that were just ripping higher post-election, like PLTR, Robinhood, APP. I know that's one that you know about, and some others that were just ripping, going straight up since November. Those stocks were hit the hardest, and now they're starting to curl higher. And it feels like, at least temporarily, it feels like a change from what we've seen over the past 5 weeks in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get to, I think you said hood and app. Like I've got both of those back in my portfolio. And again, I might seem like a schizophrenic or something because the last time we were on the call, if we were week over week, it would make more sense. But last time I was here, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm all cash. Stay away from everything. I just went back in last week, and part of it has to do, like, we've got a lot of analysts here at Paradigm, just keeping an eye on what everyone's looking at. It just seemed like the market was turning, and whether this thing rides to all-time highs, like Gunnar's saying, or if it just goes up for a little bit, like this is a very tradable either bounce or catch here. Because look at that Tesla chart, and again, it's all I don't know. There's a lot of fundamental analysis to be made on Tesla because Elon's a lot better off than he was a year ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to ignore the fundamentals, but I mean, like if you look at this rally right here, I mean, it totally round tripped. I mean, what do you think this drop is if you just had to guess?
I don't know, 50%.
55% from those December highs.
I don't look like an idiot.
Drop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that it looks kind of muted on some of these charts, but like if you look at like Robinhood, this stock was just ripping higher every single day right here. So a hard reset, not really out of the question, and also not enough to really change the overall trend. The more you zoom out on a stock like this, the more you say, okay, like this isn't as bad as it felt. And I own shares of Robinhood in a longer term account right here. And yeah, it stinks when you open up, your account, if you obsessively watch and you see the stock is down 45% in just a few weeks. But if you take into account the fact that when this thing broke out post-election, which was right here, it was up 133% from early November into those mid-February highs. So something had to give there. That's probably too far too fast. I think that's fair to say. But when you see a stock like this catch, I mean, it didn't even retreat all the way back down to its 200-day moving average. When you see it catch and roll higher here, I mean, this is still a stock that's in high demand. Yeah, it's a little bit tied into how folks are feeling about crypto. I think that's part of it as well. That's part of the sentiment that goes along with a stock like this. But at the same time, getting these hard resets here, it's not that big of a deal.
Yep. And again, all the stocks that you've got, there's just this laundry list. And it was probably during those uptrends before they did a little pullback. There's just a laundry list of reasons why to like these stocks. Robinhood, I don't know how much you've gone into it, Gunnar, but they're just in a decent spot that, like, if the market keeps going up, if crypto keeps going up, they can make money on fees. And then they've got sports betting. They've got like political markets. They got like it's stuff that like Polymarket was doing. So they're into that space. And then the other part that I like too, I've talked about with some people, I think we're starting to see NASDAQ might go 24/7 trading for the weeks or something.
Yeah.
It's another thing. Like as a market watcher and investor and everything, you look at things like crypto and you're like, does crypto get to trade 24 hours a day when I would like to trade some stocks at different hours, like the State of the Union's going on and they say, I'd like to trade stocks and I don't want to have it in horrible liquidity after hours markets. So that could be something interesting too. I think Robinhood has pioneered some of that too. So 24-hour trade. So a lot of good stuff. And the same thing with Tesla. God bless it. Tesla. I mean, Elon Musk's stock. Like, yeah, it's down 50%, but
yeah, and Tesla's always going to be one of those stocks that kind of trades on vibes. At least for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a lot of emotion regarding a trade like that. And so the fundamentals are kind of like third or fourth best when you're dealing with a stock like that, because it's tribal. It's there's a lot of pro and con opinions about it that are floating around there, that are going to float around there. I mean, it's a polarizing stock. That's how it is, and that's why it trades like it trades too. That's kind of how it goes with stocks like that. I mean, it's not General Mills. There's going to be a lot of very different opinions about what the next 5 years are going to look like for Tesla. And that's one of the reasons that it's a compelling opportunity here. And again, like you said too, we don't have to make any these huge predictions. We don't have to go on CNBC and say, oh, this rally is definitely going to take us to new all-time highs, and we're going to, see this market rip into midsummer. And S&P is going to be up 20% by the end of June. I don't know if that's necessarily true. What I do know is we got a little overextended to the downside. I think people got a little bit too bearish just overall. I'm not just talking about Tesla. I'm just talking about the markets. I think folks got a little bit too bearish, and they sold a little too aggressively. We got a little oversold, and now we're seeing the bounce. And I'm seeing these opportunities pop up because people are buying back those stocks that they were selling, and they're ripping higher. They're buying back the Mag 7 names, which were kind of sluggish to start the year. They're buying back some of those tech names. The only thing they're really not buying back right now is NVIDIA and some of the semiconductors. There was a little bit of buying yesterday in them, but I haven't seen the big snapbacks in the semis just yet. That's kind of the one thing I'm kind of watching and waiting for. And maybe if we go over to the heat map here, we can get a good look at it. You can see where the semis are right over here. And you can see MU is down, NVIDIA is down a little bit more than 1%. I know it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, you see these big green blocks here. Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple, all up 1% and change. NVIDIA not really playing ball right now and just sort of in this choppy range that it's been in for a while. So I'm not super excited about NVIDIA. I'm not super excited about SMH just yet, but I think there's plenty of other opportunities out there to grab onto some of these stocks that were damaged pretty badly in February and the earlier part of this month and have a really good chance to snap back.
Dude, you're like a human RSI calculator too, because you're not excited by them. Look, it's right in the middle of the RSI range. See, that would be where you're not excited either way on them.
Yeah, you don't even really look. You don't even really need to look at RSI for something like this. You can tell that it's really gone nowhere for quite a while, and I'm going to need to see a little bit more from them. I don't think there's any reason to get super bearish on them, but at the same time, it's all about opportunities. If you just take into account everything that we've talked about so far in the 12 minutes we've been on the call, the market is bouncing here. It's bouncing really strong. We haven't seen a strong bounce in a while. The market's been going straight down for 4 weeks and sort of leveled out last week. So we know that's the situation. We don't know if we're going to go back to all-time highs just yet, but we do see these opportunities out there. We see these strong bounces and, the PLTRs, the Teslas, the Robinhoods, those type of stocks, they're moving. Semis are lagging. So I want to be in the stocks that are leading right now. I want to be in the stocks that I think could be new leadership moving forward. And it just doesn't look like the semis are going to be those names. So I think the bigger philosophical, maybe fundamental question here is, can this market really giddy up without the semiconductors necessarily participating in a leadership role? And I think that's going to be an interesting development moving forward. I don't think it'll necessarily kill the market if NVIDIA is not screaming higher every day, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this market evolves if we do recover and we get a little bit better performance than just some sideways chop, and the semis are still not playing because it's been a while since they've been leading. I mean, SMH topped out in July of last year. So it's been longer than 6 months. When are these things gonna kick back into gear here? I'm interested to see that. But for now, I'm not interested in making any bets on them. I want my money to be at work elsewhere with some hotter trades.
Yep. All right, let's get into that. What are you seeing? What are some trades that you like setting up? I'm assuming upside here because we've got a nice little relief rally or whatever you want to call it, changing the trend. What are you seeing that's going up that might stick?
Well, let's look at PLTR right now because I think that's an interesting example because, this was probably the hottest stock in the market right here. The fact that it got nowhere near its 200-day moving average is interesting. It's definitely showing some leadership, some strength right here. I think this stock, while I might not necessarily want to grab options on it, I think this stock could be a good close your eyes and buy for a ripper here back to those highs. And it's resting today. I think that's a good thing. You're not necessarily like chasing a big move. On Friday, it was up. I don't know why it's not showing me right now on this, but it was up a pretty good deal on Friday and then it gapped higher on Monday and ran, and now it's just chilling out right here. It looks pretty good. And I think that it's 30% away from those highs. And I know the charts are going to skew this look because PLTR has just been so strong, or it was so strong right here with this gap higher, up 25% back there. I believe that was earnings, right? Back in early February, and then just running every single day before it really took the hit. I mean, I think you could play this thing for double-digit gains easily, conservatively, back up here, maybe just to fill that gap. I mean, that's 18% right there from 95-ish to 112. I think that's a great trade. And you could take some off the table right there and then maybe hold a partial position just to see if it can get back to all-time highs. But like if these stocks, if PLTR catches and starts tagging new highs, then I think we can have a little bit more faith in the market overall. Now, with that said, these bigger stocks, I don't think they're the only ones that can produce, really outsized moves like that, because there's some stocks that you're familiar with that we talked about a lot when the market was just stair-stepping higher every day that haven't completely fallen apart, which is kind of baffling. Like if you look at some of the hot stocks from like November, December, like what's it, Rigatoni, RGTI. I like to call it Rigatoni, Rigetti. Yeah. I am very surprised that this thing hasn't completely broken down, frankly. Like after a move like this one, where it went from what, $1.30 all the way up to $19, we're talking 1,300% gain right there in a matter of a few weeks. The fact that it's consolidated as orderly as it has is pretty mind-boggling to me. A stock like this, under $10, that appears to be putting in a giant consolidation pattern right here. If this breaks out, if this breaks above those highs around 1120, 1130-ish, doesn't have to be exact right there, I think this thing could rip, could absolutely rip. If that's the kind of market that we're in, I think it remains to be seen. But the fact that this thing is catching, and this is the 100-day moving average, it's not a magic line right here, but the fact that this is catching and putting in these higher lows from that big reset right here, and this is where everybody got really spooked, and with good reason. I mean, gap down 45%, I'd say that's a pretty big move, wouldn't you? Yeah. And then following up with another gap down of 30%. I mean, this thing absolutely fell off a cliff right here, but it's consolidated pretty well ever since then. I wouldn't jump the gun and try to buy this thing without seeing it break out, but I think it's entirely possible that this breaks out. And there's a lot of charts in these more speculative names, not just the quantums, that look a lot like this. We were talking earlier, what was it, ASTS?
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. Look at how well this is held up. We traded this right here, this chunk of this move. And then we got out of it because this is right when the market started getting toppy. Right here, this is February 18th. This is when we sold the second, or somewhere around in here is when we sold the second half of our position. But the fact that this has managed to not only rally on earnings, but absorb the 100% give back of that rally from earnings and come down here just shy of tagging its 200-day again and then moving higher, up 14% yesterday. I don't know, man. It feels like there's still a lot of speculative juice left in this market that I thought would have long gone. So this has me a little bit more bullish than maybe, I was feeling when we first started seeing this bounce materialize last week. The fact that these are starting to run, names like ASTS, RGTI, and there's more of them too, like Sound, the AI stocks. This one hasn't gone yet, but again, it reset back to this 200-day right here, and now it's really firming up in this $10 area. I mean, even if you catch a move on a stock like this from $10 to $13.30-ish, filling this gap right here, that's a huge move. That's a huge move for a stock like this. Doesn't need to go back to new all-time highs, but I mean, we can take our little tool here, and we can say, all right, like, what if this breaks out of this consolidation range right here? Let's just assume this is one big consolidation range right here like this. If it breaks out here and starts moving higher, I think it'll rip. And I think a lot of people will chase it. So again, some of this is dependent upon, your overall market conditions. If the market is getting choppy and falling apart, I don't think these are going to run. But if the market remains stable here and we continue to see the Mag 7s perform, and we continue to see big tech perform, I don't see why some of these better looking charts that had nice resets that are acting orderly and that are consolidating tightly and pushing back towards some of these breakout zones, I don't see why they don't continue to break out. So if we see this happen, then I mean, the market's a lot stronger than we think underneath, because all of those speculators, all that hot money is still there. It's just been sort of laying in wait, and they haven't been, totally bruised and battered, and they don't have to sit on the sidelines for 18 months to lick their wounds. They're ready to go again.
Yeah, like maybe there's actually, it didn't feel like it, but like maybe there's some dry powder there and folks are ready to come back in. Again, all these had stories of like, Sound, that was one of the NVIDIA holdings. NVIDIA was an investor. They cut their holding, and that's what
that was right here, right? Wasn't that like right here when it was down 28%? That was when NVIDIA had the whatever 13F come out and was like, nope, we don't own that one anymore.
Yeah. So again, that dings your stock. But if it's actually a decent company, this is a nice little reset. And you're seeing it, like you're saying, you're seeing it across the board, which is telling you something more about the market at large. It might be a lot stronger than we thought, and we might catch sooner. I don't even know what the S&P, like what that pulled back, NASDAQ, that kind of stuff, because it's like maybe this is all, it was just a little standard hiccup.
Well, that's just it. I mean,
the buyers are back.
It's very easy to get caught up in the emotions of what's happening right now, and that's what all investors do. We have this recency bias where it's like, oh, the market's going up, it's going to keep going up forever, and then when it starts going down, we're like, that's it, it's over, it's going to keep going down forever. But the reality is, we needed a 10% pullback desperately in the S&P. We hadn't had one since 2023. Since October of 2023. It had been a long time. It didn't quite get there back here in August during the yen panic. It did get there, I think. Yes, we did get a full 10% with this most recent pullback. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we need to chop around, and maybe we need to like scare people out and find more new lows and then pop back higher. But this is exactly what the doctor ordered. We needed it to break below the 200-day moving average and really freak some people out. This is very similar to what we saw back here. This was the 10% pullback right here, which in 2023, which started actually in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the highs in the summer, and then it just sort of leaked lower, and then it kind of accelerated right here into Halloween. Right here, this last week of October, where it really accelerated lower, it got below that 200-day, and then the accumulators start coming in. If you're still in a bull market right there, you're going to get people your institutions that come in and they start buying below that 200-day, and then you see how powerful that move higher was right here. The big difference between this 10% pullback and the one we just experienced, obviously, is the fact that this one took a long time to play out, and it kind of grinded us lower. You might remember talking with me, you and Doug were talking in Vegas in October 2023 at the Paradigm event.
We were also buying Palantir. I was. You weren't.
I wasn't. No.
Let the record state. But yes, we were.
That's true.
Plenty of things said in Vegas 2023 October.
But we were talking about how bearish it felt. And I said, I was like, yeah, I kind of feel more bearish than I felt in a while. That probably means the market's going to rip. Ha ha ha. And look, of course, that's what it does.
Should we do like a laugh at the curse of publishing? What is pull up a dollar chart?
Pull up a what?
Dollar, the chart of the dollar. We'll see how bad. This is all live, guys. This is what you get. Top trades every now and then, you get some excitement here. Dollar, do it from where's October 2023 there?
Right here.
All right.
Right here.
The theme, we went with the theme, we're like, don't bet on the dollar. And at that point, it was like, like we thought the dollar was gonna. We were at the tail end of that giant uptrend. So we're like, oh, maybe people should be betting on the dollar. But it looks like, hey, I thought we were gonna have the curse of publishing. The dollar's gonna be way higher than it is. It's actually not. So
no, it's actually below right now.
Yeah.
So.
Just a win for the Paradigm Shift Summit 2023. But that was the one. Sean Ring started it off. I think he started at like 8:30. He's the guy that writes the Root of Awakening. You better read it if you don't. He's great. But he came in. He's like, hey, my number one pick, Palantir. And I think it was it.
Yeah. Yeah,
14 bucks.
it was a very good argument for it too. And I liked the argument for it. I just wanted to see Palantir firm up a little bit. And if you go back, and I'll pull up the chart, go back and look, I mean, let's zoom out to when he was talking about it. It was right here, $16-ish. Maybe it was a little earlier than that. Maybe it was down around 15 bucks to 95 right now. I'd say that's a pretty darn good trade.
Yeah. And like you said, it's looking a lot more stable than it could, like than people were feeling 2
Yeah.
weeks ago,
I think there's still,
week ago.
well, there's always headline risk. Let's be fair, but I think there's still some headline risk with whatever's going on with the administration with budget cuts or whatever when it comes to Palantir, since it's got a lot of government contracts, and I think you have to be aware of that. But at the same time, it feels like we're finally settling in, and the herd is getting a little wary, or not wary, maybe like just a little tired of constantly reacting to government headlines. And maybe it'll put it behind us. You know what I mean? Like, you get to those moments in the market where it's like, okay, the market has told us that XYZ doesn't matter anymore because it's not reacting as strongly to news that comes out of there. And I thought we were seeing a little bit of that last week, because before that, during the meat of the drawdown in February and early March, it seemed like every time somebody hiccuped, about tariffs, there was a huge reaction to it. And then you had days like this where it was like, this is the S&P where you're down 1.5, up 1.5, and then down 1.7. Like, 3 days in a row of just like, oh no, tariffs. Oh, okay, well maybe it'll be okay. Oh no, tariffs again, and it was just doing this.
Yeah.
That's the kind of action that people really hate, and it makes them throw up their hands and say, I'm gonna sit this one out for a while.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see the opposite of that action now, where people are starting to either be okay with what Trump's doing in office, or they're actually placing legitimate bets. They're like, oh, I know what he's going to do in this sector, so I'm going to place bets here. Or I think this thing, and that might be what's, sort of mellowing out the semis. Maybe there's some logic that's, like, hey, semis are going to mellow out, but these 4 sectors are going to start seeing some substantial rotation because of Trump initiatives and stuff sort of coming out of the now that the dust has settled. Yeah. Gunnar, two things of note. I don't know if we want to do a segue here. One, local celebrity Doug Hill is in the chat. So
what? No,
local celebrity Doug Hill, he's in the chat. He's in there.
How do we know that's the real Doug Hill? It's pretty common.
We don't know. We don't actually know, but he's putting tickers in. We got some people with tickers. Do you want to do tickers now, or you want to do something in between?
Yeah, we can do some tickers now. I wanted to start with one for you though. Let's see.
I like where this is going.
I want to know your thoughts on Meta.
I haven't looked at it in a while.
Because Meta is kind of interesting to me right here, because it went straight up and it broke a record for a number of up days in a row right here by a major stock, going into the market top, and then it went straight back down and gave it all back, which is probably a good thing. So the pressure release valve was opened. Now it's bouncing. And I just read earlier, and you're the Facebook expert. I don't have Facebook, so I rely on you for these important pieces of information. But I read a little news headline that said Meta is planning to charge $14 a month for an ad-free Instagram or Facebook feed. What do you think of that announcement, and what do you think it will do for Meta stock?
I'm glad people might think this is like choreographed what we're about to do, but I'm glad you bring me in as a Meta expert, and then you tell me this, because instantly I hate that idea.
And I know you wouldn't like it.
I think it's dumb. Do you know why? Now, I haven't done this in a while, but like TikTok, Facebook, it's mainly just those two for me. They know what I want to buy, and I enjoy the shopping experience.
Right.
Like, it's crazy to say that, but like the algorithm's so good. They're like, oh, you've been looking for boots or this thing or that thing, or they just know like, oh, Matt's in this demographic and he might want a koozie or something, right? Like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I do want a koozie, right? Like, so I actually like it. I like the ads because they're so tailored. It's almost like a private shopper that's like serving me up stuff. So $14.99, hate it. I'd almost pay to have the ads.
You're the only guy who's gonna pay to have ads.
Dude, it's like having a private shop. It's like when I go into Costco. Like when you go into Costco, someone has set that whole store up for you, and they're actually smart. And they bought a bunch of good stuff that like they think that their customers are gonna like. And guess what? We do like it. So I go in and every day I go in there, it's like Christmas. Because you're just like, what have they bought for me
What have they
that I
bought
can
for
now
me?
purchase? It's the same thing with Facebook. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like Meta in general. I just think they've got a very sticky clientele. It's probably people my age and older. They're not going to move to a bunch of other platforms, and they're just sitting in there, seeing pictures of their friends, talking with people, posting stuff. Like that's a
Yeah.
decent business that you can make a decent amount of money on.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's a good take. My take isn't a fundamental take, obviously. It's going to be that, okay, we're back up right here to this shelf of resistance from earlier when it broke out. And maybe if we can get back above here, this thing keeps rolling. But I do like Meta. I like the stock. And if it continues to be a leader and the mags keep catching a bid, then hey, there you go. Doug Hill, since I've been picking on him in the chat, he asked for INTC. He wants Intel. So we'll start with that.
INTC and then SCCO, and then we got a bunch of other ones that I can.
Yeah, like this is one of those charts where I do like it and I'm watching it, but I'm not ready to like really grab on and buy this thing just yet. It's been a roller coaster lately. I mean, it didn't really budge following those earnings in January, right? And then it rips. Kind of tries to break out here, and then this is right where the market topped out, and so it gave it all back, and now it's gapped higher. 2 weeks ago, and now it's still kind of consolidating that. It's back above the 200-day, which is kind of nice. I don't necessarily hate it here, and maybe it'll rally into that end of April earnings report right there. Yeah, John said it's forever sideways until it's not. I think it's building a base for sure. I think it's going to be higher like a year or two from now. I think it looks like it's trying to build that base. I don't know what I'd put the odds of that at, but I kind of like how it's acting, even though it's being a little bit schizophrenic right along in here. I think that if you wanted to take a jab at something like this, I would buy a smaller position. I would ease into it. Like if I was going to build a position in Intel right now, I would buy a quarter to a half size position, and then I would have my stop somewhere along the middle of this range, maybe like in the low 20s, $21 right there. And then if it does break out and start filling this gap, then I would add to that position above 26, above 27-ish right there, and buy higher. So that's how I think about that. But it is beaten down. It does look like it's forming a base. It certainly has buyers stepping in down here below 20 every time, which is good to see. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take to resolve and push higher. I would like it a lot more if it marked some time here and it got tighter and tighter and tighter in this 25 range, and bored people to death for a little while right there. I think that would be good. But again, small position and then build it. I'm not a buy the dips guy. I'm like a build the position here if you kind of like how it's setting up, and then buy more if it breaks out and buy higher. Buy high, sell high. How about that?
Yeah, buy high, sell higher.
Yeah, I like that. Now, on the flip side, there is a big stock that looked like it was setting up like this that Enrique and I were talking about for a while that's totally fallen apart, and that's Nike. Nike's had some serious trouble lately, and this stock looks terrible. Nike's a Dow component, for those of you who don't know. And as you can see here, the more we zoom out, the worse it gets. This is the COVID crash back here, and it's getting down there into those 5-year lows.
What are people like not wearing shoes anymore?
No, Nike's made a lot of strategic errors lately. They've done a poor job kind of committing to their online presence. From what I was reading, and again, I'm not fundamental, Matt.
I got some takes.
But from what I was reading, they went all in on their app and selling direct to consumer, and the stores they were distributing to suffered, and they weren't giving them the best shoes. And then there were some other issues. They were consolidating departments, and they made some poor management decisions that led to this. And they still haven't been able to pull out of the spiral. I was kind of watching for this earnings report to maybe get a positive reaction from it, and it was the exact opposite. I mean, they were down 5% the day after reporting last week, and they're just sort of stuck down there. So I think it's going to be a longer turnaround story for them. I can't really speak to Nike's being cool anymore or not because I don't know. I don't know if you have a bead on that. I like their running shoes,
Yeah,
but
I like their running shoes. Kids wear them. So I don't know if they're cool or not, but kids definitely wear them. It's not like there's some other shoe that I can think of that's like, oh man, that's the cool shoe for kids.
well, for a while it was the On Clouds, right? Um,
Yeah, but that's I don't even think that's kids. Kids aren't wearing that's like
I
frou-frou.
don't
That's
think
like
kids are wearing these
yoga
either.
yoga
No,
moms and dads.
yeah. Are kids just wearing Crocs? What's Crocs up to? I haven't looked at that one.
Probably.
Crocs looks interesting here. Try
Prime
and
time.
bottom out. They had a bad earnings report late last year. They cratered down 20% a day. And I know
Summer.
you're a big Crocs bull, right?
The summer of gibbets is coming.
Lump gibbets.
Yeah, Crocs is such a great business. They need a little bit of help at the top. They need to figure out what they're doing, but they're horrible shoes, but whatever. The one thing with Nike, this is again, this is what it is. Sometimes we talk investing, sometimes we talk about just humanity. The one thing that Nike has done really well, if you're at home, you can go, I don't know if their app or their website, you can just build a custom Nike shoe
Oh yeah.
on their site, which is super cool. Friend of mine had a 40th birthday and someone got him shoes that said his name like on the back. And it was like, it was awesome.
That
That's an
is
awesome gift. So if you need a gift idea for someone that could show up in Nikes, like I don't know if I'm gonna show up in Nikes, but whatever. If someone could show up in Nikes and look cool,
well, yeah,
you get Doug Hill on the back of some Nikes.
that would be cool. We gotta it's too bad Doug is listening right now. I assume he's still listening. We could get him some custom Nikes, but now he knows.
Shit,
So
yeah, we're not sorry. All right, we'll see what happens. Paradigm Press. You go black and white Jordans with Paradigm Press on the back with that little infinity.
wow, that would be cool. See, I think that might kill the coolness of the if like little
This is
companies are buying are buying Nike shoes. But I don't. Maybe that's
yeah,
the
this
end.
is why their stock's
Cool.
going down. Like
Yeah.
no one's
Okay.
going in and doing all this crap. It's a cool gift though. That's the only reason I was saying it. It's actually pretty cool, but I don't think they're making a ton of money from it.
Yeah.
What else
So
we got? What else is going on? Because there's a bunch of stuff. Like I'm echoing Gunner's theme here that it feels like this is a great time to buy, and it's not something where it's like, oh, buy and hold it forever. But you could get a short little taste on these things, not even to all-time highs. And that's what I did last week. It was like I just went into these stocks that I knew that I liked,
yeah.
and then away they go. You know, they're starting to have a like perk up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like in this and the list of stocks that I've talked about so far, it's these are stocks people like. Again, like and I'll save this Bitcoin idea for a minute here, but like App, like since you mentioned that earlier, App is, this has been a pretty incredible recovery from a stock like this. I mean, that 25% gap higher and the flame out and closing that window, closing that gap right there, and then just totally falling apart. I mean, that was a huge move. These charts are so skewed because these stocks went up so much. I mean, like I know it looks like a regular uptrend, but I mean, this is a massive rally from those August lows of $62 to $440. I mean, tremendous rally right there. And then this flame out right here, I would say that a lot of people got shook out of this stock.
Yeah.
It down more than 50%. Again, notice the theme here. A lot of these stocks that have gone straight up since election time, or even before the election, they retraced 50% plus. Tesla did it. PLTR did it. AppLovin, which it's the most ridiculous name for a company ever, which is probably why the stock does so well. They did it down 53, 55% right there from those highs. But the fact that it's pushing higher right here, that it caught right down here before closing this gap too. So buyers are stepped in hard in the 230 range here and are really pushing. This looks like it's recovering nicely, and it's right back into this zone where it was like just chopping along here before it broke out on that earnings report. Pretty darn good look right here for a stock like this. I think you can put a stop down here somewhere reasonable and try to buy something like this. It's probably a little rich for options right here, but you could buy something like this, and again, doesn't need to go all the way back here to show you some really strong gains right here. Look at the past. Let's do like let's say you bought at Wednesday's highs right there from last week. If you bought at Wednesday's highs, you'd be up 15% plus already. That's pretty darn good. If you bought here and it just started filling that gap right there, you're looking at a 20% gain. That's nowhere close to those highs again. That's just pure snapback right there. And if things are changing as quickly as it feels like they're changing, and if the bears are getting the smackdown right here as quickly as it feels like they are, then you could be sitting on some nice fast money right there from these. And again, it's not about predicting new highs. It's about tactically playing these stocks that are bouncing the hardest right here and betting on that they're going to continue over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I just realized I don't have app. I thought I re-upped on it last week. I didn't. I've got Hood. I'm in the Hood trade.
You're in the Hood trade. Yeah, I own Hood longer term. And people from the chat know that we trade that thing all the time.
Yeah.
Quick question, or ticker tossed in there from Eric right here. Just another quantum, IONQ, which is, another amazing performer with this humongous breakout right here in October, right before the election. This thing started running before the election and then just kept going. Hard reset again. And now it looks like it's setting up again. It barely snuck below that 200-day. I'm shocked that these aren't totally falling apart, that folks are back in these. This was down 65% from those highs.
Yeah.
And then we have the Friday, Monday push 5%, and then up 17% on Monday. That's similar to I know we're jumping around different speculative groups though, but like BBAI, which is red today, by the way, this might be a little choppy, but I mean, this thing was up 20% almost yesterday. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but these ones that gave back all those gains, like BBAI, 100% give back plus of this insane rally here that went from 360 to $10 and change all the way back down. I mean, I wouldn't bet on this thing going back to $10 anytime soon, but it could sure as heck go from 350 to $5 in a hurry. That's pretty darn good, So for stocks like this, I wouldn't bet the farm on them, but you can manage your position size in a trade like this. And, like this one is consolidating here around the top of this range. Or maybe if it holds 360 and then pushes, toward 380, you try to buy it on a thrust higher, play another move higher. You get 20, 30, 40% on a play like that.
Yeah. Some other ones, this was from earlier in the chat, MAGX, MAGX. I don't know what that is.
Is that a levered Mag 7 fund?
I have no idea, but let's do
it. It is. It's a 2X long Magnificent 7 fund. That's interesting. I didn't know this one existed. I can't keep up with all these levered ETFs now. Now that we live in the land of everybody bets on something. That's an interesting play right there. I don't know if I would necessarily take a trade on this when I could just pick my favorite individual name out of the group. You know what I mean? It's almost like buying ARK right here. When it's okay, I guess you could, and I think that's fine, at certain times, but something like this, I would rather just pick the strong individual performer out of it, and grab that. ARK is obviously very Tesla heavy too. So
yeah. What about PEP? PEP? I don't know what that is.
Oh, Pepsi. Yeah.
Oh, Pepsi. Never mind. That's
so Pepsi. So I'll give you a little breakdown on Pepsi. So when the market was doing poorly, I tried to grab this as a safety trade, and now the safety is off, and it is totally deflated. This one's probably going to expire worthless, barring some sort of huge rally in April. But yeah, it was a safety trade that became very unsafe. We took a small position in it several weeks ago, but we made up for that with our SILJ trade, and I really think that our Uber plays. I think Uber is going to look really good. This was my line in the sand in Uber. Just for those of you who are interested, who were in the chat right here, this is what I was looking at late last week. thinking, okay, like Uber didn't get it punished as badly as a lot of the other big popular stocks um, during the drawdown, because this was the market topping out right here. Went from 80 right down here to 70. Not too bad in the grand scheme of things, and got bought immediately when it dipped below the 200-day. I know we have a confluence of moving averages here, but the brown one is the 200-day, the brown orange one's the 200-day right there. Bounced perfectly off that, and now seems to be coming out of this consolidation. Posted a nice ripper. This is where we got in right here on Thursday. Great follow through on Friday. Probably needs to rest a little bit here, but I think this is going to go back into the mid 80s in a hurry. And I think this could be a new market leader too.
Yeah, what if we talk fundamental on Uber, right? I don't know how any of their money shakes out, but you got Uber Eats. It's like whatever. But then like what if work from work starts sticking and everyone sold their cars? They were like, I'm never going to the office again. And then
Uh,
it's like, well, you don't have a car, and then it's or just work from work in general, you're just gonna get more Uber traffic. It's like, I mean, that could be a decent, that's just starting because I think it's starting to really, I see it in our office and I see it around rush hour and that stuff. I think people are back at work way more than we would have thought. I think it has to do with Doge and Elon, the government. I think bosses around the world are kind of like, maybe you should come back in or something.
I don't know if I think that maybe a stretch on some of that there. I think that like the way that Enrique and I talk about Uber, we've talked about it before. It's the ultimate market TAM play, total addressable market. It's like an Amazon-esque type play, and I think there's really no way that they end up not just growing like a weed over the next 5-10 years to become a major player with everything they do. Like I think food delivery is here. I think that Uber just as its the logistics and the rideshare aspect. I think that's obviously the core of its business and huge, but I think the food delivery thing is going to be a lot bigger than people think it's going to be. And I think
And
they're
if
going
Tesla
to.
buys them, they'll probably go up.
I think that would be good. Um, so yeah, I think yeah, definitely market leadership potential right here. And I like the fact that they didn't get hit as badly as some of the other ones. I think it could be a smoother ride. Um, so we'll see how this one develops. And then Roblox is the other one, and this one's just a gigantic base. So the reason I like this one is because we have this massive base right here that it's been building since the bear market of 2022. Remember, this was a super hot IPO during COVID times. And then we had the base breakout back in December. We tried to trade this back here and we got shook out. I don't know if it was here or here. But we had the big breakout. It obviously got way overbought. You can see here, I mean, insanely overbought here in early February. And then the air needed to come out of it. It came back here and it tagged its old breakout area perfectly. I haven't moved this line. I just extended it right here. It tagged its old breakout, this old resistance turn support line right here, which pretty much confirms that like this base is a go to me. This says this long-term base, we're breaking out from here, and then it starts climbing higher from there. I like this look a lot, and I think it can go a lot higher from here in the weeks ahead. I got super aggressive with these. I know some of you took the 70s instead of like the 75s here. I totally get that. But I got super aggressive on these, thinking that this pushes into the late spring because it doesn't get any prettier than that on the chart. Big change in trend. I think it's confirmed by this dip here earlier this month that it's going to hold, barring some sort of flame out here and then a break below support. But this looks really good to me, and it's another one of those plays that I like. And so I'm just adding to the stable here as things get better and better in the market. I think we're going to trickle down. And some of those big winners, like the stuff we've already talked about on this call, the Teslas, PLTRs, the hoods, I think once those start to consolidate a little bit, these are going to be the next ones that really start to rocket higher.
Yep. All right, more tickers from the chat. We got Marvell, MRVL. I know that one's a big one around the paradigm space. So if we
Oh, it
want to
is? Okay.
that one, because it's been a train wreck.
Well, hey, we'll see here. No,
But
here's another thing though. I mean, like, look at how similar this is to some of the other stuff we've been talking about, because this also had a massive breakout here and got way too overbought. It ran 60-70% in a matter of a couple months. And then we have the hard reset here. Was this an earnings gap lower? It looks like it might be. Yeah, so it was down 20% on earnings right there. I think if it starts filling this earnings gap, it could get really interesting. I'd be interested in this like over the high 70s, like somewhere between 75 and 78. I think it would start getting interesting there if it starts curling higher and you start to see some buying off of these earnings lows right here, because you have this hard reset and then you can maybe play it to a move in the high 80s and then see where it goes from there. But I think that's not the worst thing I've seen in the world. Unless it totally starts falling apart right here, like shaking out the weak hands, and then if you get some more, I don't know, fundamental mats or whoever buying this thing down here, it could really build. So I don't hate it. I know it looks ugly, but I don't hate it here.
My problem with some of these like Marvell and the chip stocks, like fundamentally, I can barely wrap my head around what they do. So, and like I still believe this is going to be blasphemous and everyone's going to boo, but I'm like, I think chips are a commodity. So at some point in time, chip companies can make money, but they're not going to be like Nvidia. What happened with Nvidia is a little bit crazy. They need to start diversifying or something. Jensen hopefully has a plan. We'll see what happens.
What you said is true though, because remember back in the day, like semiconductors were a very cyclical, commoditized industry. I mean, it wasn't this red hot trade that it is today, or that it was last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's entirely possible they revert back to that. I don't think that's too crazy to imagine, but we'll have to see how the whole AI story develops. But I think that's entirely possible. Like if it's not like 5-6 years from now, or maybe sooner, that like, everything sort of catches up to itself, and then the chips are just a cyclical, group again that doesn't move like it did during this magical time where everybody couldn't get their hands on enough.
All right. Well, if I'm doing some recap, Roblox, you like that one. You said something like this is as good as it gets. I like that situation. I like
Yeah, I
Uber.
think that's
I like Hood.
big
These are
base.
all.
Yeah.
I thought I had app. I don't. Maybe I need to go buy some app because that does look like a pretty decent reset. Can you you will be doing me a favor by doing this, but I feel strongly about rotation and upside in electricity. So not oil and gas, not all this other stuff, but like electricity, because I
Right.
think you add all these things, and this is Enrique has said it. You
Yeah.
add all this stuff up. If you take away AI and Trump reshoring, I think we'd still have a problem. And this is Enrique says this line, right? This is his logic, but it makes a lot of sense. If
Yeah.
you take it away, we'd still have a problem with electricity. But like you add in AI, which is like Elon's building Colossus. Everyone's just like, we gotta have more AI or whatever. So just chips are just sucking electricity. And then you add in reshoring, like that's not even a question.
Mhm.
Reshoring is coming. And
Mhm.
that means if you build a Honda plant in Indiana instead of Mexico, Indiana needs more electricity.
Okay.
And I think this is happening at a substantial rate that's outpacing anything. And it's the electricity space is such that you can't get it. Like you can't, it's not like oil where you can hit a gusher and be like, oh, we have all this, there's more of it now. Electricity, it runs through lines, it's all planned out, it's regional. So I think there's going to be some big winners and losers. Like, do you have any take on that space or any stocks you like? I can give you tickers, but um,
I think
anything you
longer
like or not like?
I think longer term you're right, because I think it's they're doing things that are absolutely necessary and very hard to do with a very wide moat. It's not easy to make more electricity, right? And so just from that standpoint, I think fundamentally it's a good argument, because we obviously, with all the data centers and the AI stuff and everything that's happening, which is obvious, we need more electricity. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a no-brainer that people don't realize is a no-brainer just yet, if that makes any sense. I still think that this story hasn't gotten as big as it's going to get.
Can you pull up like PWR, CEG? I don't know, just some of these just to see what they're doing. A lot of these stocks look the same. This has nothing to do with all the other stocks we looked at, but it looks the same.
No, I mean, I think this is a classic case of overbought to oversold, and now it's like leveling out. Like that's a pretty darn hard reset right there. It didn't react well to earnings, but folks are buying it now. It's back to this level here that was a shelf of resistance. Maybe they'll get back over that and it'll become support again. Like I wouldn't be in a rush to buy something like this, but I don't think this is an end of the world chart right here. What was the other one?
CEG, that's Constellation. That was just a big runner over years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing. This is another got way too overbought right here, and this was kind of a hard reset. I actually like this chart a little bit better right here. I think that's good. And then what was the other one?
I mean, you could look at like TLN, that's like Talon.
Right, that's Talon. Yeah, I know that one. And I think it's kind of the same deal. Talon's a lot stronger,
That's
but you can see
strong.
you
Yeah.
can see what happened. I mean, again, it was when markets pull back like this strongly, you get a high correlation situation where everything goes down, right? Because people don't want anything. They obviously sell their speculative stuff first, but they're going to sell everything, right? And you're going to see lower prices here. Even in the stuff like this that's really strong, and now it's snapping back, so that looks really good. I see BWXT is another one. That chart's been was looking really good and got way overbought back here. Look how overbought it got, where it had to bleed that off back in March of 24, and then in November you can see the momentum divergence here, where it became really overbought right here and couldn't sustain those overbought levels right there, with the peaks in the RSI moving lower and price moving higher. That's what we call a momentum divergence, and that's kind of a warning sign to sell something like this. But again, it's reset nicely, and it's back to the shelf right here, right back to the shelf, just above 100. I think this looks pretty good. I know this company pretty well. They make nuclear components for the government, for nuclear subs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been a hot one too, and I think it'll probably be fine.
Yeah. And again, now I'll steer a little bit towards Trump because again, I've got a few things that I'm excited about, but like let's get back to Trump a little bit. That plays into the electricity thing. There have been things that the administration have done where they're saying, hey, we're going to allow coal to come a little bit more back online and X, Y, and Z. So it's like they're doing some very legitimate tweaks of the system, whereas like you're not getting coal. Who knows? Unless Democrats are getting paid, they're like under the Democrat regime, you're not getting coal and some of these different things. I think we're starting to come around to that. But the other thing I want to talk about is some of these Trump trades that are setting up, and you ought to pull some of them up. A lot of people know Fannie Mae, FNMA. You can look at that one, but the other one is NAC that we ought to just like look into a little bit. And these are out there in the public. People know about them, but these are starting to get a little more action on them. These are essentially Trump executive order or administration plays where if Fannie Mae is allowed to go private, it's
Right.
worth way more. So that could just be like the stroke of a pen and some big deal that happens behind the scenes and just gets announced one day.
Right.
All of a sudden it gets re-rated at a much different price.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where I was kicking myself for not buying it because I didn't buy it. But it looks
look,
great.
you can buy it right now for
Yeah.
$750.
I mean, the chart looks amazing. So
I
yeah,
have some, but I have this little teeny position. I made so much on that run up, I got out.
yeah, that's fair. You
and
gotta book the profits, man. I get it.
Yeah.
What was the other ticker?
NAC, NAK.
NAC.
Here we go, baby. If anyone knows this one, you love it.
Oh, this is that magical miner.
Yeah, these are the ones that like this. They have a gold and copper mine, whatever it is, gold and copper mine in Alaska. That's like, again, I like the environment. I like animals. I like plants, right? But like, they were holding up and still are, right? They're like, you can't have this mine there because of like a bird or a fish or whatever it is, right? So like, this is one where they think Trump might come in and be like, you can do it. And all of a sudden, it's
No.
starting to get like this is a monumental breakout.
That's huge.
And again,
I wouldn't touch this one up here, but that's pretty impressive.
I'm not saying buy it right now. I'm saying like this story though, that's proof that these
Yeah.
Trump stories are starting to come out and they're moving markets.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I like I feel like the Fannie Mae one might, uh, for whatever reason, that one feels more possible to me than this one. I don't know, but I like how you went on record there saying that you hate polar bears and you hate the environment. That
I
was
like gold.
hate the environment. I can't believe you would hate the
If
environment.
we're trying to get luck, we want to audit Fort Knox. Why don't we audit what's under the ground in Alaska? Get this Pebble project going.
I like that. No, it's
I
great.
don't have this stock. I wish I did. I know some of the analysts around the space, they've been on it. And again, you could have bought this thing anytime in the last year or whatever, and you're happy.
Yeah, totally. I
It
mean,
just caught. The story just caught. It's basically
20,
Trump saying, "Hey, we're
yeah,
gonna get at it."
it was 25 cents not too long ago.
Yeah.
It's,
And
I
I'm
mean,
not saying get at it. He's not saying, "Oh, we're gonna open it last." He's saying in general, like the U.S. is sort of back open. Like we
right.
got.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. So you hate the environment, but this trade is really good. This is an interesting play. Yeah, I like it.
All right, Gunner. What are we missing? What anything else that you really like that we need to talk week over week? Because we're getting a little bubbly, some opportunities showing up on the screen, which is great. Anything
Yeah, I
else?
mean, like it's like look, like trading isn't the type of game where you do the exact same thing every week. It's like every Monday I'm going to buy this, every Tuesday I'm going to buy this. You can't trade by a schedule. There's some market environments that are better than others. We had a rip roaring market, to start the year where we were able to, grab onto some really big winners, and then, things started falling apart. It was time to pull back. We pulled back. We bided our time, and now pushing the gas pedal down again, to see what we can get out of this market right here. You can see, like, even on a consolidation day like this, like, not giving up a ton of those gains, which I think is important to note. Like, like stuff is starting to run. And if you look at this heat map right here, where's the red? It's in consumer defensive names, it's in utilities, it's in the defense trades, the offense trades, minus some of these semis right here that aren't really playing ball. Some of these offensive trades are starting to move. And I think we need to be on the offensive right now. And so we're going to be trading more this week, hopefully, like we started doing last week, adding these trades onto the docket, trading more now than we were in the previous 4 weeks, because market conditions say green light, go. So let's go, baby, and see what we can get. Drill, baby, drill, but drilling for gains in the market, not drilling through penguin habitats in Alaska like Matt would do.
No way. No, I think you guys are doing good work. Again, we talked about it, Gunner, in the office last week, and I think it was like Wednesday. And I think we were pretty close to the bottom of sentiment, where it was just like, there's nothing that makes me want to, in general, buy stocks right now. And
Yeah.
guess what? Guess what I did later that day? I bought
Bought. Okay.
because I felt so bad about buying stocks. So if you think about that, if you're home, that sentiment, the people that are further out on Main Street still feel that way. They're not tied to a computer in the markets and doing this like we're doing in the community that you have here, Gunner. You guys are on it, right? You might still get another week or two of just these people coming out and like, maybe things aren't that bad. I do feel good about Trump. Let's buy some more XYZ. And you
Yeah.
start getting that and some institutionals, like you can gain some momentum there. So you're doing a good job in and really finding the upside in a market that was a week and a half ago looking really, really crappy. So keep up the good work. We're gonna stay tuned. Anything else? You guys have a good amount of trades on, so that's good.
Yeah, we have the second half of that silver trade that's looking
Yeah.
like it's going to perk up. I think it's going to rip. It does feel like that folks are more willing to buy those miners. Maybe miners are going to stay red hot into the summer. That'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun. It's been a while. And then we have Uber, which is lagging a little bit today. I think it's going to pick up. And then Roblox, which is looking really good. Love both those charts. I think we're going to be good there. I want to add to it though. Like I said, like I want to be grabbing stuff that's hot and that's moving higher this week that gives us good strategic entry points where we can ride this relief rally to wherever it takes us. Let's not worry about new all-time highs yet. Let's just play what's in front of our faces right now and play this snapback rally.
You got to take down that picture of the bear behind you, dude.
I sit in front of it.
He's
You can
retired. He
pick
got
which
retired.
one you want to
Oh,
block
there we
out.
go. I like that. All right, everyone. Again, thanks again. I know we didn't get to every ticker that's in there. Good thing is chat's open. Chat's open every day. Blogs open every day. Markets are open with Gunner. So appreciate all the feedback, all the back and forth. Some good ideas on Nike, custom Nike shoes. Great stuff. It was fun to be here, and I appreciate you guys. Gunnar, I appreciate all your work and all the participation there in the chat. See y'all. We'll see you
Yep.
next time on Top Trades.
Thanks for stepping in, Matt. Talk to
All
you
right,
guys
see you
later.
guys.